Welcome to the final episode 6 of Trail Life North Central Region's Yukon Winter Challenge. It has been a great season with you guys. And so we're going to start out with Ethan O'Neill from AL 1613. Ethan, are you ready for us to have you pray?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I guess.
All right, go ahead, take it away.
All right. A true man honors God. Please remove your hat. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us here today to spend a wonderful time at Polar Vortex. Thank you for bringing us here today to enjoy seeing your creation and all the wonderful things in it. And that we learned lots of things of what it was like and how hard it was for people back then. Help us be safe and help us to have a fun time tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ethan. If you would read our verse for us this evening, go ahead.
All right.
Where are you from?
So Matthew 7:12. So whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them. For this is the law and the prophets.
Excellent. Thank you so much for doing so. And we have several slides that we want you to see tonight that you have sent in as we have our last announcements. It's been a privilege to be your host with you. And these are some of your works on display this evening. We have a couple from before: Soap Bar Boats. Little Hawk has this floating in his sink. He also has quite a chunk of ice. Now, that's pretty easy for him to have in Illinois, and we're glad for that. Here's Ace, I believe is this young man's name. Look at him making biscuits right there, just like they would have in the Yukon. That is amazing. And there is his shaped biscuits that he cut out. He also made flapjacks. And as we continue on, we have this young man. His last name, I believe, is Harmon. I forget his first name. He's there making biscuits. He has made a Yukon breakfast. Look at that. I bet you those are eagle eggs that he found and made those. That's how he found that. Up off the cliffs of Denali, he found those eggs. He has his tools ready, guys, and he actually did something to help out in the house. Look at that display. Well done. And then we have these gentlemen making some fine biscuits, and along with flapjacks. And here's some more flapjacks. So that is a great job. And here's some more biscuits that have been made. This man sent me a whole bunch of videos. I wish I could have put them together for you. Just didn't have the time to do so. But he also got heavily, this is what you would call a home improvement project. Watch this home improvement project. Look at there, the stairs. If you walk down those stairs, you're going to go right into whatever is below. He is repairing and replacing the floor, and he's got himself a nice workshop table put out there in the driveway. Well done. And here is the showcase for tonight. Guys, this is not Wisconsin, where CJ Cordell is from. This is not Michigan, where we have Jim Robinson. This is not the land of Eric Tanner of Ohio. This is Alabama. Can you imagine? Alabama snowman. How often does that happen? Way to rock it. That is pretty cool. So, guys, keep it up. And we truly had a polar vortex this year as we got involved. Hey, we got some other announcements for you. And Mr. Tanner is going to take it away right now and tell us a little bit more about the Yukon adventure that happened in the South.
Well, thank you, Mr. V2. This is so just this past weekend, we had our last Yukon adventure for navigators and adventurers. This is a picture of the sunset that we had on Friday night. So we're looking across, kind of across the field, looking at some of the campsites and on into the sunset. We've got a couple others here, I think. Maybe is there a picture of my busted toe in there?
There is.
Oh, no, there. So this is what it looked like when nobody was there. There's just a few footprints, but this snow is a minimum. It was 6 inches everywhere, up to about a foot deep. So all of the trailmen were slogging through this snow through various activities. And we got a couple of those things coming up here in a bit. What other things we've got there? Let's see if there's a picture of my toe. There it is. That's what happens when rubber gets too brittle in the cold and it's snapped. Those are size 14 boots. I normally wear a 12. I slipped those on. I just had one pair of socks on, and the rubber along that toe just snapped because it was so cold. I gave those boots a boot.
Well, we have another picture here of the sleds. Tell us what's going on here.
All right. Let's see. So the guys are getting ready. They've just completed their sled inspection. You can see the guys in the foreground. They've repacked their sled. The guys in the background there, they're still getting some stuff rounded up. So they get the sled inspection is done. And then right after that, we start in on the first activity, which was the emergency shelter. And you can see the guys, you can see how deep that snow is. There was about, I would say about an inch or two below the top of the surface, there was a layer of ice. So the guys had to bust through that ice as they were traveling around everywhere. I think there's a couple more of there. Now these guys were pretty creative. This is a troop out of Kentucky, Lexington, Kentucky area, and they designed their sled so it could come apart and then serve as part of their emergency shelter. They brought all kinds of tools to take it apart, and then they reassembled it back together. So pretty creative idea to utilize all of the equipment that they had available. Here we're just kind of looking at the campsite. You can see how cold it was. It was a nice, bright, sunny day, but right about here, it's about, I'm going to guess about 12 degrees is what the temperature is right here. Yeah, it was a chilly, chilly day. These guys, they're working on their emergency shelters, having a little bit of a challenge, but they're getting it taken care of. And this happens to be our evening dinner. We had 70 guys total, 70 trailmen of all ages, and we got to come inside in a lodge and kind of get warmed up. And yeah, it was a delicious meal of a turkey and rice soup. So wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time we had with all the trailmen.
Well, next year, I hope that you guys are planning on participating. Everybody that's watching from Alabama, we invite you to come on up for a Yukon adventure. We will let you into Ohio for the Yukon adventure. All right. And you can have some snow with us. I also want to say that we are looking forward to the Alaska High Adventure trip of 2022. Guys, this is going to be experiencing the adventure of a lifetime, and it's a great opportunity to trip. This is going to be for those that are higher in rank. So you younger mountain lions, you navigators, when you turn into become an adventurer, we would love for you to be able to be participating with this. There's a shakedown trip that is coming June 11th through 13th. More details will be coming out in this coming week on this. So those of you that are adventurer age, we would love for you to participate. March 31st, there's a down payment. You got to get some skin in the game, $200. Also, we are really excited what's happening in the North Central region. Rob Green this week just chimed in a little bit about how important it is for our troops to run and be thriving. He said this on one of the Facebook forums, how excellent it is that the North Central region is putting so much effort. And there's a lot of 3 peaks training. Peak 1 is about foundations, how the program works together. Peak 2 is running a thriving troop. And then Peak 3 is a training camp out where the adult registered trailmen are participating in patrols and learning the experiences of outdoor living. And so we want to make sure that you look on the calendars for those. There's several all across our region. The other thing that we're really excited about that's coming up here is the Quad region. This is just not the North Central. This is 4 regions of Trail Life USA. We're getting together in West Virginia on top of a mountain. Guys, this is on top of a mountain. We're going to see how the heavens declare the glory of God. We're going to see a beautiful sky. Our theme this year is Adventure in the Stars. We have a ton of things that are going to rocket your socks off. I promise you, you're going to have a great time on this adventure. I know it sounds a little pricey at $350, but if you are going to be a navigator, you are able to come and be with us at Adventure in the Stars. Woody Youngs is going to be our guide as we go along, and Trip McElhaney is going to be our program director. And so we're really thrilled about that. One other, if you're not able to make it to West Virginia, Illinois is going to have a summer camp. There are some details here that are not exactly right, but the theme is Here I Am. It's June 6th through 12th. The deadline is going to be May 1st. And there's going to be all kinds of badge work that you can work on at this camp, as well as activities for woodlands and their fathers. Hawks, as long as you have a registered adult with you, all the way up to adventures and registered adults, there will be a Peak 3 training as well for you during this Illinois summer camp. So the more details will be coming out about that. Well, at this time, we want to turn it over to our official gold man. This is the man that has a sack of gold. We've seen it. We've seen his tools. We have seen how much he knows about the gold fields, and he's going to tell us about that again tonight. So, Mr. Kent Marks, would you please take it away?
Thumbs up, everybody, if you guys having a good day. All right. Hey, this is our final session for the Yukon, the Polar Vortex, and we're going to go over real quick some of the things we've already covered. So folks, we started off in Skagway. Remember Skagway, where everyone in the world heard about the Yukon gold rush, and they came from all parts of the world, and they made it to this little town called Skagway, and they had to go through the process of getting ready to gear up and go into the mountains and back down to the Yukon River. Some of them had to stay over the winter because they did not have enough time frame to be able to get out and get out in the wilderness and get to Yukon. But once they got to the next spring, they took a hike with all their gear up the Chilkoot Trail. Chilkoot Trail is the entrance to the Canadian Coast Mountains, and they had to carry over 1,000 pounds of quality gear. And the Canadian Mounties decided what was quality gear or not when they made it to the top of the Coast Mountains at the border of Canada. Once those Canadian Mounties said, "Yep, you're good, go," because they didn't want folks from all over the country dying because they were ill prepared. So once they made it to the border, they headed to Lake Bennett. By the time they get to Lake Bennett and that 1,000 pounds of gear, winter moved in again. Remember, in Alaska and northern Canada, they've got like 4 months, maybe 5 months of decent weather before everything freezes in and closes in. So they had to stay at Lake Bennett. They built the boats, they built their rafts and the vessels to get down the Bennett Lake and on down to the Yukon River the next spring. So they get down to the new Yukon River and they head towards Dawson City. Those that made it to Dawson City and made it to the gold fields of the Yukon, the gold fields and their impact. Now, the discovery of gold made a few rich. A few miners found gold, and this is gold. This is actual gold right here. I was able to pick this up. This is actually gold from Georgia, by the way. And I also wanted to show you. I picked this rock up. I explored an abandoned gold mine in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, and I have a rock here with some gold in it. It was left over, and I happened. I don't know if you see the sparkle or not. But there's just a few grams of gold in this little rock. But the adventure, the adventure awaits those who seek it. Remember what I just say here. The adventure awaits those who seek it. There'll be no adventure if you don't go out and seek it. You got to get out, guys. You got to get out and explore and check out the world. So a few of the miners got rich beyond their wildest dreams. Many made their fortunes off the backs of miners chasing their dreams. The Sherpas, the ones that carry the gear, those that set up the stores, those that set up the boats, built the boats, actually even the paddle boats that came up the Yukon from Nome, from the ocean. Some stampede stampeders made it, and all of them from all walks of life came on one common goal. You know what that was? It was the adventure. It was the journey to get there. And not all of them became rich, but all of them became rich in adventure. Remember, adventure awaits those who seek it. Take a look at this photograph here. This photograph of the restaurant, and there's other stores. These are quickly built wooden structures in Dawson City. The influx of people in Dawson City made it into a legitimate city. It's also led to a population boom all across the Yukon, because some folks just never made it to Dawson City. So, hey, I like where I'm at. I'm gonna try to find gold in some of these tributaries of the Yukon, and many did. By the way, there are those that are still finding gold today in the Yukon. If you watch the Discovery Channel, there's a series called Gold Rush, and there's also a series called Gold Rush Whitewater. If you find Gold Rush Whitewater, they actually scuba dive in rivers that are near the mother lode of the gold in the mountains. It's really an exciting show to watch. So the gold rush is credited for helping the United States out of the Depression. Now, there were different depressions, different times, but at the turn of the century, there was a slight depression, and this actually cued a lot of interest for folks to get off their duff and get out there. Adventure awaits for those who seek it. The Klondike Rush ended in 1899 with discovery of gold in Nome, Alaska. Now, here's what happened. Word got out that in Nome, Alaska, men would just go out into the sand at the shores of the Bering Sea, and they take their cup. Here, I got a tin cup right here. They take their cup and they'd scoop that sand up. They put it in a sluice or put it in their gold pan, and they'd find gold dust. And they did this again and again. And next thing you know, everyone went to Nome, Alaska. And if you watch on the Discovery Channel, there's another called Dive Down, and they vacuum up the surface or the bottom of the water, and they suck that gold up into the sleuth boxes, and they pull up millions of dollars of gold to this day. Actually, they're right now. Well, this is the last week that the ice gold miners can work, because in Nome, Alaska, they get permits to go out into the water. They dig holes big enough for them to get down through a scuba and go down under the ice. So they set these ice tents up and get down and make themselves rich that way. So it's really exciting to find gold. And you know about this tin can, I was exploring a place in Colorado. The place was called Tin Cup, Colorado. And the story behind Tin Cup is this is where the gold was discovered in the Rocky Mountains. And word has it that a cowboy was riding through on his horse, and he was walking across this creek in the Rocky Mountains, and he got thirsty. So he reached down, took his tin cup to reach down, and he saw a gold nugget, probably about the size of that or more. Saw a bright gold nugget, and word got out that gold was found in Colorado. So when word gets out, everyone shifts to that new place. There was a gold rush in California. So there's actually right now there's a gold rush in the Philippines, of all places. So I just want to let you guys know that the adventure awaits those who seek it. Now remember what I'm saying. That's sort of important. Here's our memory verse today, Matthew 7:12. So whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them, for this is the law and the prophets. Here's another one. Here's the Gold Nugget Challenge for this week, these next 2 weeks. Take a hike with your family and make note of at least 20 signs of God's creation. What is God's creation? The trees, the bark, the dirt, the rocks, the clouds, the birds, the sun, the moon, the rain, the snow. So make note of all these and make this a family event. Have your family participate in this, okay? The second Gold Nugget Challenge is using Matthew 7:12. Go out and do good acts in a community service project. Help a neighbor or other acts of kindness. You guys can do that. You've got a neighbor that's maybe they still needs some snow shovel, or maybe they need some help moving some things out of the way, or just knock on the door and say, hey, how can I help you? There's something I know you need. And be that person, be the difference in someone else's life. Okay, I think that's it, Sean.
It is, and that is a wonderful time that we've had out in the Yukon. Thank you so much for taking us on that adventure, Kent. And it is true, adventure awaits those who seek it. That is an exciting thing to remember. You may need that as time goes on here, guys. I also want to say to you, as you do what Ken is encouraging you to do with Matthew 7:12, understand that word kindness at the end is part of the fruit of the Spirit. And when you are helping your neighbor, you are loving them, you are caring for them. And that's what trailmen do. Trailmen have character, they have virtue. And so look for someone and build a relationship with them. Just don't let it be a one time thing. Find that lady that's across the street that needs a friend, and not only are you going to help her do something, but find out what you can do next month or next week with them and really be a vessel that Jesus can use like that. Well, we have our last cold weather tips for the trail from our adventure trailman, Connor French from Newark, Ohio, Troop OH148 has put together a video for us on cold weather hammock camping.
Connor French with Troop 148 out of Newark, Ohio. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to camp with a hammock. First thing you're going to need is a hammock. So the first thing you're going to have to do is set that hammock up to get yourself some track. You're going to want to connect this to a tree a little bit above your head. Just because the trees that we're using are kind of far apart, so we're going to need a lot of space for them to hang down. Here's our first strap. And make sure it's tight. We're going to wrap it around a couple times. We got a real long strap. Maybe one last time. And then we're going to go back through the hole we just came through. We're going to tighten that down. That's our first strap. And the second strap, you guys can't see, but I'm doing the same process on a tree. So just like the other one, a little bit above my head, wrap it around once, and take it back through the original hole to hang up your hammock. Once we got the straps in place, that's when our hammock comes out. So what we're going to want to do, we're going to want to hang our hammock to get it to where we want it to hang. And then we're going to even it out so one side's not higher than the other so we can sleep evenly. So it's a little bit tight, but like I said, we're going to even it out. Alrighty, that's looking a lot better. So this is about the height that you want it at. A foot or two off the ground. And then for hammock cold weather camping, the next thing we have to do is put an underquilt to this because as you can see, this is very thin. And if we're just laying that while having no protection whatsoever, we're gonna get very cold through the night. It's very windy. We're gonna get in my bag here and pull out an underquilt. We also got a blanket just for a little bit of extra measures. So we're gonna take our underquilt. We got it all strapped up so it can stay small. I haven't cinched it down completely. But usually you do that when you're actually going camping. I'm just staying out for one night to test my new underquilt. Stuffed in here very tight. Then what you want to do is there's these little carabiners. Just like the ones that are on our hammock. And we're going to clip those to our hammock straps. Right? Ooh, a bit slick. Right here. You want to make sure both bungees to the underquilt are also strapped. After you do that, you just kind of put your hammock inside. And this is going to stay over the majority of your body whilst you're inside. Alright? The next thing we got to do, we got to hang our tarp. Alright? So for that, I brought some 550 paracord. I'm going to get this sectioned up and get everything laid out and turn you guys back on. Alrighty, so as you can see, I now have my tarp strung up over it. I just had to cut my paracord in half, which I'm a little sad about, but it'll be alright. Had to tie it to the grommets individually. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this tarp and I'm gonna tie it down. I'm gonna tie it down to this log right here. It doesn't look very big, but it's a little bit heavy, maybe 30 pounds. It'll be okay for the night. I'm gonna use these black ropes to, one for over here, one for over on that tree. Gotta get a little bit creative. It's a bit close to my hammock, but I will come back when that is done. Here you can see the final product. I got one side tied to a log over here. Got my hiking bag. Got my hammock over there. And I also got another sleeping bag in here. And then, like I said, we had to get a little bit creative over here. So creative we got. And this is the final product. Pretty happy with it. And I hope it suits me good. Till the next time we meet on the trail, remember, walk worthy.
Great job by Connor putting that together for us. And I hope that someday you would try out as well doing some cold weather hammock camping.
Tonight's theme is hostiles. Keep them away. Keep them away. Things you want to keep away. That's what Mr. Cordell is going to be speaking about tonight. So let's listen up to what he has to say.
Hello, North Central Region. Welcome to the 6th and final installment of the Polar Vortex meetings. I'm coming to you from the place that we've survived the Polar Vortex. It's in front of a stove or some other source of heat, and we are in northwestern Wisconsin. We experienced 30 below without the wind chills during this time. We know that many of you across the country that dealt with temperatures that you were nowhere prepared for, maybe even snow and ice, and it's lasted for days up to a week or more, and we're sorry to hear about that. For us, it's just part of normal life. We took our troop out camping in it and had a blast. So what we're going to talk about today is the aspect of having to deal with hostiles and how to keep them away. So whenever we think of hostiles, most people would quickly go to, there's a bear in my tent or something crazy like that. Maybe a coyote's dragging one of the trailmen out into the bushes. But there are a lot of things that you wouldn't think about in cases like that. Second one would very rarely happen. But so what we're going to do during the rest of this video is cover a lot of different animals that could be considered hostiles in certain situations at least. And then we're also going to cover some things that you probably don't think about. You might have thought about it during the real polar vortex this last week. But we're going to cover some things that you need to keep away, whether they be animals or they be nature, and those things are just going to happen. What we're going to do is we're going to go to a couple of our adventurers from our troop here at Lady Smith, and they are Zeke Waller, who's our quartermaster, and Elijah Hendrick, who is our first officer. And they're going to walk you through the list of the different hostiles. And then we're going to go over ways that you might be able to avoid or back out of bad situations that you might have gotten yourself into with some of those hostiles. And what we're going to talk about for the final part of the discussion are ways that you can avoid getting into trouble with hostiles. That way they're not hostiles, they're just nice things to look at in the environment around you as you're enjoying a wonderful camping trip or a scenic tour through God's creation, whether it just be for a day or you're out there for 7 to 10 days on something that's more like a high adventure trip. So good luck to y'all, and we'll see you at the end of the video.
Hello, I'm Elijah Hendrick, and we are going to be going over the main topics for hostile creatures. The first topic is the annoying kind, followed by the rodent kind, the bird kind, stinky kind, toothy kind, the creepy crawly not so toothy kind, man's best friend kind, silent and deadly toothy kind, freight train kind, also including weather, which is lightning, floods, wind, heat, and cold.
Hi, I am Zeke Water, and I am an adventurer from Wisconsin 1221. Here's a list of animals that might be included in hostile category. Annoying kind. These could include mosquitoes and other biting creatures. And there's the rodent kind. These are like mice, which are really annoying. And there's chipmunks and squirrels. And then there's bird kind, which are crows. And there's the stinky kind, which are skunks. They cause a lot of commotion, just don't go behind them. Then there's the toothy kind. They include raccoons, and raccoons can steal your food, and there's muskrats, and then there's beavers, and bears like stealing food too, so keep your food up high. And then there's badgers, which is like in our Wisconsin flag. And then there's the wolverine. Then there's creepy and crawly animals that don't bite, which are snakes. And snakes are really deadly if they're venomous. And then there's spiders. And then there's man's best kind. And then there's a fox. And fox are small and cunning. And then there's coyotes, which are shot for sport a lot. And then they're really fast and smart. And then there's wolves. Wolves like hunt in packs, and they kill a lot of things frequently in the day. Then there's the silent and deadly kind, which include bobcats and other types of big cats, which also includes a cougar and a mountain lion, which is the same thing as a cougar. And they like climbing in trees a lot. And there's a panther, which is also the same thing. It just depends on where you live, on how you go home. Then there's the freight train kind, which plow through you, which may include buffalo, and they can charge you and kill you, and they can be in the middle of the road, and do not approach them. Then there's cattle, and they are almost like buffalo, except they don't weigh as much and they're not as smart. And then there's moose. They are just moose.
Hostiles. We're going to talk about how you can avoid them, whether they be animal or weather, and simple measures that you can take to ensure 90-something% of the time you're not going to have to deal with it. So first place we're going to start is in the campsite. If you take good care of your campsite, keep your stuff
Excuse me, I paused.
picked up, you keep food away from the campsite, you don't take snacks out, throw them in your tent for later, or drop the wrappers from your snack packs in there, or in your pack, or just leave them laying around the site in general. You're going to attract a lot less for wildlife that could become hostile. So you need to keep your food prep areas and your meal areas at least 200 feet away from your campsite, and they need to be downwind from your campsite. That also goes for for any animal carcass that you might have to dispose of, and by that I mean you caught a fish for dinner, you cleaned it, you're going to have some remains left over. Take it several hundred feet away not in the same direction as where you prep your food. Make sure it's downwind and get rid of it. The other thing, main area that's going to be important is where are you going to hang up all of your food for the night. You need to find a spot that's a couple hundred feet away. Notice that 200-foot numbers keeps popping up, and it needs to be downwind. And you want to find a tree that you can, one, use by itself to hang a rope over a limb that would be 6 to 10 feet from the trunk, and then you would tie off one end of the rope to the trunk and hook up a carabiner to your pack and put all your food, put all of your personal hygiene products such as toothpaste, deodorant, any kind of skincare creams that you might need, anything that could have a sweet odor to it, possibly have oils in it, needs to go in that bag, needs to be sealed shut and sent up the line to where it's 6 to 10 feet off the ground. Or, I'm sorry, 12 to 15 feet off the ground, 6 to 10 feet away from the tree trunk. And you want to try to pick a limb that's not going to support the weight of the bear, so the bear can't climb up the tree and come at your pack of food from the direction of the heavens. The next thing you want to do that would be better is to tie a rope with a carabiner in the center between two trees that are at least 20 feet apart, and then you can winch up your pack 10, 15, 20 feet off the ground that way, and it's far from the trunks and there's no way the bear can get to it and pull it down. So that'll keep everybody safe in their tents, because everything that the bear would be interested in will be down there 200 feet away downwind in that pack. The other things you might want to think about is zipping up your zippers on tents, hammocks. Sleeping bags should probably be rolled up in the stuff sack if they aren't stored in a tent, where it's zipped up safe from the creepy crawly hostile animals. And then the other items you want to consider are, don't be chewing gum, little kitties, all around camp. Because if you spit that out or you take it to bed with you and stick it in your shoe, things are going to smell it. So keep everything safe, keep everything clean by doing clean up behind yourself all the time. Don't be like some of our trailmen who just leave things all over the place. I'm thinking of one little special guy that we gave my grandfather's name to that just leaves stuff everywhere. He's going to grow out of that eventually, but till then, you got to help watch out for the trailmen and the Woodlands Trail program if they're there on a car camp out type thing, and keep things cleaned and picked up. The last part we're going to cover for hostiles is when you're on the trail. You want to make a lot of noise when you're on the trail, and it'll help keep you from surprising an old sow with some cubs and any other animals that could be along the way. You might run into bison or buffalo. You might run into cattle. Cattle actually kill people that are hiking every year, and you don't want to be a part of that. So make sure you're making a little noise. If you're hiking solo, put some bells on your gear. Maybe you have a whistle that you blow every once in a while if you think you're in an area that's heavy with especially bear activity. And you can look for signs like scat all over the ground, or you can see places on the trees where they've clawed and chewed on it. Just make sure you're a little loud. It works well for our troop. When we're on the trail, our trailmen are really, really loud, and I can guarantee you that there aren't any hostiles within a county's radius of us whenever we're out there. So we're all safe because of that, even if it's a little overwhelming sometimes. The next thing you want to think about is weather. Weather can be a hostile. Those of you that were stuck in the polar vortex this last week know that weather can get pretty nasty in a hurry in ways that you wouldn't expect. I grew up in Texas, and I know that many of you, some of my family are still down there, had to deal with temperatures that were sub-zero, and that's not something that you're used to. Most of you think when it's 60 degrees it's time to put the parka on, and I understand that. We used to live there. Be prepared when you're out in the weather for the kind of conditions you could have. Check the forecast. If you're setting up camp and you're in an area that's prone to flash floods, don't set up in the low areas where the water's going to be coming through. If it's going to rain, make sure that you're setting up on higher ground periods so you don't end up in a low spot that's just going to hold water and stay wet. And if you're camping where it's windy, you're going to want to try to set up so you can avoid some of the direct winds and build fires if it's appropriate. Check with the Department of Natural Resources or the wardens in the area, or if you're National Forest, check with forest rangers before you go in to make sure whether you can build a fire. There may be restrictions on that. We camped in the Boundary Waters one time, and there was a forest fire pretty close to where we were. It had been dry all summer, and they didn't want anybody having campfires, period. You had to bring a gas stove in. So always check for stuff like that. That'll help you keep hostiles or hostile situations from happening to you and the rest of your troop. Thank you. On behalf of Wisconsin 1221, thank you for attending and have a great night.
And remember to walk worthy.
Now get out there and hit the trail.
Thank you, CJ. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Cordell?
CJ, you said it got down to what negative degree this past week?
It was 30 below here.
Okay,
on the coldest night.
My question is, when we hear wind chill, how is that determined? Do you know?
I'll be honest with you. It seems like the colder it gets, the less wind it takes to make the wind chill really get further and further down there. But basically, it's going to be the wind, how fast the wind's blowing, and how cold it is. It's almost exponential. At 30 below, a light breeze could make it drop 20 more degrees on the feel like temperature.
Okay.
Which is crazy. Your nose hairs stiffen up before you get out the front door.
CJ, we have a question from Jackson Slagle. He says, if you don't have a pack, what can you use for noise?
If you don't have a pack, what you could use for noise. One would be your voice. Generally just whistling or singing, or if your buddies are there, your fellow trailmen, you can talk with them quite a bit. Animals can hear really, really, really well, a lot better than we can. And they're going to be alerted that your presence is there in the woods with them, and they're going to scatter because most of them don't want to have encounters with us.
We have another question from Sterling that says, what caused the hikers to be hurt by the cows?
I'm not sure. They didn't touch on that matter. It was someone from Western Europe. They were talking about having cows attack their food pack, and the cows ended up, she said she was attacked by cows, but it ended up they were just going after the rolled oats that she had in her food pack, and they just kind of knocked her tent down and licked it all over and chewed on the bags in her pack. But the ones that get killed, I think, are typically people that run into either a mother cow with a calf, and the mother cow is just trying to protect her calf, which any mom of any species is going to try to protect their animal. So that's one good rule is do not get between a mama and her babies. And I think that goes for humans in a lot of cases too. Don't mess with mama. The other ones would be bulls actually attacking people that were hiking, because bulls are a lot less friendly. They don't get handled by their owners nearly as often, and they tend to kind of have a little rotten attitude. So if you come up on a bull or a cow on the trail, especially a cow with calf, just back up and go around, and you shouldn't have any issues.
So Jackson asked another question. Should you check for an area that are easy to get through off the trail for animals?
Yeah, you could definitely back up and look for something that's easy to go through. Depends on the kind of animal you run into. It might be worthwhile going through something that's not easy to get through just to get around them so they don't mess with you.
Mm-hmm. And a real quick one is where, I think it's in relationship to the bear bag, where should you keep your first aid kit?
That's probably
should it be in the bear bag or outside of the bear bag?
Well, I'm thinking about my first aid kit, and I don't think there's anything in mine that would attract a bear, so I'd keep it outside personally, so it's easy to get to. if you had some, I don't know what would actually be yummy to a bear in a first aid kit. So just keep them out where you can get to them. You never know when you're going to need it.
Well, Mr. Cordell, thank you very much for giving us our video tonight on hostiles. That gives us a real good big picture of not only wintertime hostiles, but also some summertime. So, Mr. V2, what do we have? Who do we have?
We have Callan Spellman is going to be our prayer person tonight. And so, Callan, we would love for you to close our last polar vortex in prayer. Would you do that for us, please?
All right. Chairman, our reverend, please remove your hats. Dear Lord, as we leave this Zoom meeting, we thank you, God, for giving us this opportunity to meet with trailmen across the country. I pray that we will go and put to practice all the valuable lessons we have learned today from our fellow trailmen and leaders. Amen.
Amen. Well, on behalf of our entire Polar Vortex staff, Mr. Kent Marks, who has led us into the gold fields, Mr. Eric Tanner, who has introduced us to all of his cold weather camping friends that have given us so much good advice, as well as all of our adventurers that have given us some excellent trail tips. It has been amazing to be together, and we are so glad that you've joined us. Want to let you know, if you know of people that would like to participate in the Polar Vortex, it has been all recorded and is available for a troop to use, or an individual later on, and we would be glad for you to share it with them that way. Thank you so much for coming out with us on this great adventure. Adventure awaits those who seek it. Have a wonderful, wonderful year. God bless you. Walk worthy. We'll see you later.